Yeah, from before, when I've been working on exhibitions, I always been interested in this choice that you have as the viewer to go around and see the space and the sculptures in your own pace and your own time and your own movement. And this is something I tried to encourage in earlier exhibitions, to give also the viewer some kind of like security that every way you would move through an exhibition would be the right way and the good way, because as a viewer you can't really do anything wrong. And through the restrictions that came with the last show I made, where you actually had some kind of guiding, the idea of making a more like a guided exhibition occurred. This cage, and there is also some connection to the childhood, or like this memory of a childhood, or how we're maybe potentially trapped a bit in our feelings towards our childhood, and how this have affected us. And also then how this, in this kind of relation, and I liked my previous works, was where I was also thinking a lot about this, how like caring or connecting, or it's often that it have this double-sidedness, and that these dogs that you like on almost every way of relating, you have also maybe a certain violent aspect to it. Yeah, also with the textile works, this blanket, it came from this idea of being like very protected and taken care of in a blanket, but also having the stripes and the ribbons. I was thinking of gifts, and how you're giving a gift that also always have this reciprocity. Is that the word? I think it comes quite directly from the work with the puzzles and with the dogs that I have worked with before, but it also comes from this idea of movement. So it wasn't totally clear that I needed to have them in wood in the beginning, but I think this the feeling of the movement would come more clearly in the wood puzzles, and also that they potentially can fit together. So they are three separated waves, but if you put them on top of each other, they potentially can make more like a barricade or something. And then having this, like, almost just like these movements that you can do with your arms, or how you're walking, or how you're looking. There was this interest that just kept staying with me. And and it also came from a little bit from the dog tails. That was like, of course they're kind of separated from it now, but they still have a little bit of a tail feeling. So it was like tails and waves and connected. Many years ago, when I started to think about or starting to make the dogs, I was thinking a lot about what's making me very emotional, and like what's evoking some kind of feeling of, cuteness or belonging. And for me, the dog is kind of this combination of all these things, and also this idea of a companion or someone you relate to, and it goes back to this thing of relating. But it's also that the dog is in the leash, so it's like you're relating in some kind of like a loving way, but you have this leash that is that is again bringing in this like controlled, violent, or taking care of the dog. And so for me it was a lot of different reasons that I found, and I also want the dog. I remember we were talking about cards, because I tend to find cards in the street, for instance, that this is something that I'm always curious what kind of card it is, because I'm thinking, okay, what like this can be like a symbol for something. And I think this interest that I have in more of the objects that I'm showing is also maybe this ambivalence, like for instance with the lotto ticket, this idea of potentially winning, that is so like it's a very low probability that it would happen, but it's still this potential there. And also this combination with the star signs that is also just manufactured, and it says your star sign, but this is probably making you more like likely to maybe get the one with your star sign, and then giving this double thing of both possibly believing that you can become super rich, but also that this written little star sign can help you. And I think, and this I found interesting, and also because myself, I'm also like intrigued or like attracted towards. Thinking about memory, that one of the things that is hard to remember is, for instance, it's numbers. And with certain memory techniques, you can also, make images of the numbers and then remember them in a better way. But then it's also this idea of something rational that I find interesting with numbers, that you have both an idea that is referring to something else outside of the number itself, because the number is just the number, and also that this rational thing of numbering and counting, and that it's also in the lotto tickets, even though it's such a random game, it still have this number frequency or sequence where you get a feeling that maybe it's also connected to some rational thing. And in the show, like I used the numbers almost also a bit like color in some way, that it's, for me, it's have a maybe a feeling connected to them, but it doesn't necessarily refer to another thing except for that. It's called instruction, so it's meant a bit as a kind of an instruction, and maybe it's also connected to this like being guided, like these two things about getting instructions is as a friendly helper, or is it more like, again, like a violent way of saying that you, like a restriction? I wanted to ask with the show and with these bars that it gets a certain confusion, or we will see how the visitors are perceiving it, but that this all these bars will get like a sense of confusion, and I wanted also this to reflect a bit in the book, where you have a certain number system, but this number system in some way doesn't make totally sense either. So where the instructions can just go a bit astray, where you maybe have to think about if you actually want to follow this instruction.